You're listening to the Computer Repair Academy podcast, a show that's your go-to podcast for easy tech fixes, pro tricks, computer repair tips, and everything you need to keep your computer running smoothly. So if you're ready to upgrade your tech game, then let's dive in.
Welcome, ghouls and goblins, to a special Halloween edition of the Computer Repair Academy podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, and tonight we'll be venturing into the dark, mysterious corners of the tech world where things aren't always as they seem. This is Computer Repair Horror Stories, where I'll share some spine-chilling, hair-raising tales of tech gone wrong. We all know computers can be unpredictable, but what happens when they seem possessed? What happens when a repair job turns into a nightmare? Buckle up, because we're diving deep into some real-life tech terrors, client horror stories, and some of the creepiest computer malfunctions I've ever encountered. And believe me, these tales will make you think twice before turning your computer on in the middle of the night. Let me start with one of the strangest and spookiest cases I've ever come across. I call this one the haunted hard drive. So a client brought in their desktop PC claiming it had been acting strange ever since they moved into their new house. Now, right away, this seemed like your standard issue. Weird noises, random shutdowns, files disappearing. But it was the last thing they said that gave me chills.
I think it's haunted.
Yeah, I didn't take it seriously either, at first, but then I opened up the case and it all started to feel, well, weird. The hard drive was making these strange whirring and clicking noises that I'd never heard before. It sounded like whispering. As I dug deeper, the computer would randomly shut down whenever I tried to access certain files. I thought it was a failing hard drive, but the more I worked on it, the stranger things became. Files would reappear after I deleted them. Random folders were named things like Help Me and Ghost in the Machine, things the client swore they hadn't created. The real kicker? The system clock would reset to 3:33 a.m. every time I rebooted the computer.
The witching hour.
Turns out, after a little more investigation, and no, it wasn't a ghost, their hard drive was failing and the OS was severely corrupted. And those random file names? That was just the computer trying to read scrambled data. But it sure felt like a haunted piece of tech until I finally swapped the drive and reinstalled everything. So while there were no spirits trapped in the hard drive, it definitely gave me goosebumps. Lesson learned. Even when your computer's acting possessed, there's usually a technical explanation lurking behind the horror. This next story is one that I like to call the curse of the endless update loop. It's a tale of frustration, confusion, and fear. Fear that your computer is trapped in an eternal cycle of updates, never to return to the land of the living. A client brought me their laptop, claiming it had been updating for, get this, 3 days. When I powered it on, sure enough, it was stuck on the infamous installing updates. Please do not turn off your computer screen. And no matter what I did, restart, safe mode, yelling at it, the laptop would just go right back into that cursed loop. Now, normally, an update issue can be resolved by reinstalling the operating system or rolling back the update. But this was something else. Every time I tried to fix it, I'd get a cryptic error message followed by, you guessed it, more updates. It was as if the computer itself was trapped in a digital purgatory, destined to forever update but never complete.
Why won't it stop?
After some extended troubleshooting, I finally cracked it. Turns out the client had installed a third-party driver just before the update. The driver was corrupted, which caused the system to continuously fail the update process and retry it. I had to do some tech exorcism, uninstalling that bad driver, then forcing a clean update. The lesson here, if your computer feels like it's stuck in an endless loop of updates, it might be more than just a simple Windows glitch. Check for corrupted drivers, incompatible software, and if you ever feel like smashing your computer to break the curse, just call a pro instead. And now, for a short but freaky story I like to call the phantom printer. A client once called me saying their printer was printing things on its own. I'm talking middle of the night, no one's touching the computer type of stuff. It prints things that I didn't even send. Naturally, I'm thinking it's a simple case of a stuck print job or a software glitch, so I head over to their place to check it out. The moment I walk in, the printer, this old creaky thing, starts printing as if it knows I'm there. But the thing is, it wasn't connected to the computer anymore. It had been disconnected for days, and yet it kept spitting out pages with garbled text, random symbols, and sometimes blank sheets. After a few minutes of playing detective, I realized what had happened. The printer had a built-in memory, and previous print jobs had gotten stuck in there. It would occasionally wake up and try to print them, even without being connected to a computer. So no, it wasn't possessed. It was just a very confused printer trying to finish a job from beyond the digital grave. Once I factory reset the printer, it cleared the memory and the ghostly printing stopped. But let me tell you, for a moment, standing there with random sheets of paper flying out, it felt like something straight out of a tech horror movie. All right, if you're still with me, it's time for one final tale, and this one is downright creepy. I like to call it the zombie laptop. You'll understand why in a minute. So I get a call from a client who tells me their laptop has been acting strange. They said it would turn itself on in the middle of the night. No, not waking up from sleep. I'm talking fully powered off, only to rise from the dead at 3 a.m. Of course, they had to throw in that classic horror twist, the witching hour.
It's like it's alive!
Naturally, I'm intrigued. So I asked them if they'd been leaving the laptop plugged in, thinking maybe it was just automatically booting to install updates or something. But nope, it wasn't connected to power, and they double-checked that it was fully shut down each night. Yet still, every night at 3 a.m. sharp, the laptop would turn on by itself. Now, I'm not one to believe in haunted tech, but I'll admit, this one had me scratching my head. I went over to take a look and decided to bring the laptop back to my house for the night and to see it for myself. Sure enough, at exactly 3 a.m., the laptop screen flickers on and it boots up without anyone touching it.
Is this the dawn of the robot uprising?
So I dig into the settings, and after a little poking around, I find something that made my spine tingle. For like 2 seconds anyway. The laptop's Wake on LAN feature had been turned on. For those of you who don't know, Wake on LAN allows a computer to be powered on remotely using a specific network signal. So I went back on site with the laptop and logged into their router to dig around on the network. Long story short, apparently every night at 3 a.m., some internal network device was flooding the network with these random wake-up signals. Turns out their teenage son had recently set up an eBay special smart home system, and that device was the one flooding the network with stray signals, waking up this laptop. Once I disabled Wake on LAN, the laptop stayed firmly in the land of the dead. No more midnight risings. So, while the zombie laptop wasn't a result of a tech apocalypse, it was still a solid reminder that computers can be unpredictable when you don't know what's lurking in the settings. Well, my tech-loving ghosts and ghouls, that's it for today's computer repair horror stories. I hope you enjoyed these creepy but mostly technical tales of the strange and spooky things that can happen with our computers. Whether it's a haunted hard drive, an endless update loop, a phantom printer, or laptops waking from the dead, remember, no matter how spooky it seems, there's usually a logical explanation just waiting to be uncovered. And hey, if your computer starts acting up and you think it's possessed, don't panic. Just call a professional or Ghostbusters. We're tech exorcists in our own right, I suppose. Thanks again for tuning in to this Halloween special of the Computer Repair Academy podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more tech tips, stories, and tutorials. Until next time, keep your computers clean, your updates fresh, and may all your printers rest in peace.
Thanks again for tuning in to the Computer Repair Academy podcast. Until next time, keep those PCs running smoothly.